I think the best way to start this out is, how do you feel about Biden pardoning his son? And actually, you know what? And while you're answering, Springer, can you pull up his statement that he released? Okay, cool.
So, out of context, on its own, I think it's a bad look. I don't like the idea of. I struggle with it because it's like, I don't think the president should really pardon anyone, but then I think, okay, there are people who are unjustly imprisoned, lots of nonviolent drug offenders who could be pardoned. That would be a nice use of that. It's especially frustrating to watch Hunter Biden get pardoned for a drug charge while you have, maybe millions of people in prison, people of color, poor people, for less severe drug crimes, right? So that's disappointing. In context, it's kind of a non-issue to me. Trump did something very similar in December of 2020, so same time frame relative to his term, when he pardoned Charles Kushner, Jared Kushner's father. So a member of his extended family, not his son, admittedly, but a member of his extended family.
Can you pull up the reason why he pardoned Kushner, by the way? Thank you.
For similar kind of tax evasion. Let me see if I can.
Yeah, Springer's got it. You're good.
I got it in the note. Okay.
Oh, okay. You got it. If you have it in your notes, it'd be great. But he's pulling it up as well.
So I think it was tax evasion. Kind of similar stuff to what Hunter did, which is breaking the law by lying on forms, essentially, is what it sounds like. Now, add to that context the fact that Charles Kushner has been selected to be the ambassador to France. So not only is Trump pardoning people in his family, but he's actually giving them government jobs. I hate to start this off with a whataboutism, but I think the context matters. And I think if the people of the United States are going to elect someone like Trump, who is a convict, right? He was convicted, I think, of 34 charges. I don't think the American people care all that much. And so that's, to me, it's kind of a non-issue.
Sure. And we can get into the 34 felonies thing. But my quick answer on that is just, I don't think most people care because people see through it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a novel legal theory that's never been used before, and they got him on, and we can look this up later, but from what I understand is they got Trump on incorrect documents with paying off Stormy Daniels, and then he didn't value his property properly, and
so that I don't think he has been convicted of.
Right, but that's what they brought up in the 34 charges. That was a part of the felonies, and the issue is with that I have with that, I'll end that there, is in any other case where this would be brought up without the novel legal theory, this would be brought as misdemeanors. But with the way they circumvented it, they turn it into felonies. The issue that I have with, the only thing I would push back on with it being a non-issue with Hunter getting charged, is if you follow the breadcrumb trail on what he's getting pardoned on. Did you pull up the statement for Biden pardoning Hunter? Okay, so I
don't like that Biden went back on a promise.
So yeah.
I don't like it.
So yes, but where Biden says, well, first of all, and this is I want to stay away from conspiracy as much as humanly possible, but I do find it weird that this statement was released on a Sunday evening via digital form only. Mm-hmm. And that was the same exact way that Biden's statement about stepping down was released. So where my brain goes to is like, okay, is this really Biden? Because nobody believes, I don't think. Okay, not nobody. Most people don't believe that Biden made the decision to step down. That was not him. That was his party coming together and saying, hey, either you fucking step down because you fucked up that debate and you're mentally incompetent, or we're going to enact the 25th Amendment and we're going to remove you and put Kamala in anyway.
I think he probably faced a lot of pressure, yeah. I don't know if he was threatened.
I think he was fucking threatened.
And we don't have evidence.
Yeah, we don't have strict evidence of that, but I think there.
So I don't know if that happened.
And that's why I want to stay away from that conspiracy stuff, but it's like, it's hard for me to not draw the line, because it's like major announcements from the same president, because he still technically is the president, same announcements from the same president, released more or less at the same time within the margin of like, I think 5 hours. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, and then when it was released, there was like, scroll down real quick.
So are you suggesting that they do it at this time so that it flies under the radar?
I wouldn't say it's just that. It's just the consistencies are weird. That's all I'm saying. It's just asking the question of like, who's really doing it, I guess. And that's why I label it under, or I file that under like conspiracy. You know what I mean? It's like, who's really...
It's just a curiosity.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's just asking questions. Yeah. But the reason why I had it, other than the obvious, to have him bring up the letter is, so scroll up a tad. Okay, so where he says... or a little more than that, sorry. So where he says that it's over multiple purchases or buying a weapon... and then wait, don't my eyesight's fucked up. Don't highlight that. People late, and then, so the weapon stuff, the taxes stuff, and then where he brings up the dates. So scroll down to where it shows the dates, because it's January 1st of 14, going until December like 3rd or December 1st of 2024. Let's go down to where it shows that. Yeah, it might be at the bottom. Yeah. So that's not just like his gun charges and the taxes stuff didn't date all the way back to 2014. And the issue that I have when you say that this is a non-issue is because I think the 2014 date is very important, because in 2014, we staged a coup in Ukraine, removed their government that was highly sympathetic to Vladimir Putin, installed a democratically leaning government, a Western-leaning government, and then Biden decides then that he is going to help, because he obviously helped Hunter Biden get a board seat on Burisma, and then they start doing all these deals, and then what this does is this exonerates him from anything that associates him with his own laptop. And some of those things on that laptop were the emails that were tracking all the business deals, or some of the business deals with Burisma that alluded to Joe Biden being the big man and getting 10% of any of the profits that Hunter Biden would have gotten. And then once Biden gets into office in 2020, pretty much immediately starts coaxing Vladimir Putin to invade, well, him and Kamala, because Kamala is on record saying that she wants Ukraine to be a part of NATO, coaxing Russia to invade Ukraine, which I don't agree with. That's a bad move, bad thing, don't like it. I don't support Vladimir Putin. However, we coax Vladimir Putin to invade Ukraine. We start funding this war like no fucking other. And then it's just hard for me to not associate that corruption with the Ukrainian war. And we were just, before this podcast started, I showed Springer this video, and we could pull it up if we want to show it, but it's Lindsey Graham talking about how we can't let all the mineral deposits go to Russia, right? So we have this vested interest in making sure that Ukraine is, and especially now with everything with the long-range missiles, Ukraine is pretty much a NATO government or NATO country with how we've changed our nuclear posture and how Russia has changed their nuclear posture. So all of this to say, this exonerates, and then you can tack on the hooker stuff and the crack cocaine stuff, and then you know, where he's like flipping around a weapon and he's with a minor about either pre or post coitus, if you want to use some fancy terms there. This exonerates Hunter Biden from any ties where if World War III started tomorrow, you could kind of follow the breadcrumb trail back to this was a huge part of it. And this also was a huge talking point, and this is where I'll end it here. This is also a huge talking point when Trump and his supporters, especially the diehard supporters, are like, election interference, they stole the election, whatever. Do I think that Trump was the rightful winner of the election? No, people voted for Biden. However, from everything that we know from the Twitter files, from these independent reporters like Matt Taibbi, now that everything we know from the Twitter files, we know that, or at least it could be asserted, that if the public knew that the Hunter Biden laptop story was not Russian disinformation, Like those 51 intelligence officers signed off on that letter asserting that it was. You can extrapolate from that people probably now the margin of how many people would vote for Biden, who knows? But that would have been a huge chip against the Biden campaign at that point in voting in either him or Trump. So completely removing any fault from Hunter Biden and by proxy the Biden family from any type of corruption dealings with Burisma is a real fucking issue.
So I will say Ukraine is the one thing that I did the least research on. And it's been a while since I've looked into the Burisma thing. My understanding is the Burisma scandal has been torn apart. And
yeah, and they found him guilty in the
Biden?
Biden? They found it in the Durham report. So Durham, the guy who was the special investigator who looked into that. Now, mind you, just for a little bit of historical context, not really historical because it happened fucking 15, 20 years ago. But this is the same guy who was, I think his name's John Durham. This is the same guy who was toting around with the Bush administration saying, hey, they've got weapons of mass destruction. This is a just war. He was a part of the whole apparatus that led us into the Iraq war. So even this guy is like, no, this is not Russian disinformation. This, like, they found that the intelligence agencies were lying about everything from Trump being a Russian agent to the laptop not being Russian disinformation. And again, this is the same guy who was helping out with the Iraq war. This is the same guy that investigated Bush and said there's no torturing going on in Guantanamo Bay. So this dude is known to toe the party line. And he's known to, like, and I would not even party line, the government and incentive, right? Like,
right. You want to be careful there because now he's going against
right. Yeah, I use the wrong terminology.
Right,
he's known for going with what the government wants.
Well, he's known for going with what Republicans want.
So pull up the Durham report real quick.
Right there.
Thank you. So, oh my God, you got to fucking zoom in a little bit. Years of staring at a screen have really fucked my eyes, man.
I'm seeing fucking zoom.
So that's my whole issue with the Biden.
So they didn't find him guilty, right? They recommended charges.
So what they did is they were saying that, well, for sure, the 51 former intelligence agents saying that Trump was a Russian agent and that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. Completely false.
Well, let's pause there. So So it is my understanding that when you say they're claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation, are you referring to the findings of the Twitter files?
Yeah, and that's
okay. So that wasn't the claim that was made, right? The claim was that there would be Russian disinformation.
No. That everything coming out of everything coming out of that laptop was fake. That it was all doctored. It wasn't real. That it was Russian disinformation.
I would want to check on that because my understanding was that they warned them about a potential Russian disinformation story, not connecting it to the Hunter Biden.
No, they said it was 100. And then Zuckerberg went on Rogan and was like, yeah, they told us that laptop, like, because when you were on Twitter at the time, because they contacted Twitter and they contacted Meta. And so if you were on Twitter or on Facebook Messenger, you couldn't even send the article from the New York Times where it said that this is...
For how long?
Fuck.
It was like 24 hours, right?
No, it was up until...
Well, I don't know about Meta, but I know Twitter, it was about 24 hours.
It was extreme. I mean, recent's a relative term, but like it was up until like a year ago that you couldn't send that New York Times article between people. It just would not let you.
That's interesting. That's something to look into,
and
right?
So,
that's not great.
Yeah, and so... so they had found that it wasn't Russian disinformation, that laptop was real, the contents on the laptop were real, all of the emails that were linking the, obviously Hunter Biden, who's a part of the board of Burisma, but the connection of the Biden family to that oil company, and then it's just being a coincidence that we're hyper-funding, which is ironic, hyper-funding Ukraine, which is ironic because, I mean... Just before 2014, you could find articles from like the Huffington Post, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, talking about how corrupt and scandalous the Ukrainian government is, right? How they're one of the most corrupt governments on the planet.
Sure.
And then now we're laundering money through them through this war. And I think it's like, because we looked it up. I don't think you were here for this. I think Joey was running the podcast earlier this year when we did it. But we looked it up, and as of May of this year, we had sent like $174-ish billion to Ukraine, and only like, not only, of that 174, like 120 billion of that was going to the Ukrainian government. Like, it wasn't even going towards like the war effort. And so finding all that shit was like, well, what the fuck is going on?
So I'd be curious how those numbers break down, because the government would be the ones waging the war, right? You're right. It is,
but that's paying for like everything from government salaries to pensions to like they attract going to like vacation funds and it going to like all this. We're basically
I think that stuff should be audited,
funding up a
sure.
government. So that's why
let's be clear about the numbers, right? So
Yeah.
it's $175 billion, which sounds like a lot. That's over a 7-year period.
No. This is since the war began.
Since
Russia,
since 2022.
No, 2022. When
So that much money has been approved.
no
It hasn't-
sent. No,
Sent.
sent.
Appropriated
Yeah.
over a 7-year period.
No. So Russia invades in 2022, and we start funding the war.
So I'm getting my data from the Council on Foreign Relations.
Look up how much money we've funded in the Ukrainian war up until now. Let's just do that number.
I'm looking at where the money's going right now, but
So my point is, if it's over a 7-year period, right? If it's over a 2-year period, that's what would that be? That would be about 90 billion, 85 billion to 90 billion, which would be about 0.8% of our federal budget, right? So it sounds like a lot. It's a pretty small amount. I would like to see an audit of it, right? Who it goes to.
Yeah.
and the Pentagon failed its 7th audit in a row.
So anyway, while he's finding like specific numbers.
So we've disbursed about 67.5, but we've obligated 101, right? So we've appropriated about 175.
But that was a year ago. That was December 31st of 23.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. So see, that's why I have the issue with Hunter Biden getting completely wiped of all this, is because it gives him complete and total clemency of any connection to any connections of corruption that we found on that laptop are now pretty much gone, because they were, and obviously by plan, whether they were letting him go through the legal system or not, all of that was going to get pinned on Hunter anyway.
Yeah, I
know what I mean? So he becomes
overall.
yeah,
he
becomes
I
a
don't like the
scapegoat.
pardon. I think it was a bad move. The fact that you're bringing to my attention the fact that it goes back to 2014, that's very suspicious.
I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Ukraine because, like you said, you look into it too much. But the long story short of it, like the bullet points, is so once the Soviet Union falls in the 90s, our promise to them was like, hey, like the direct quote to the Russian, or I guess to the former Soviet Union as they're becoming Russia, our direct quote to them was, hey, not an inch to the east. That's not what we're going to do, right? And so, but with every president after that, we just kept absorbing more European countries into NATO. And Putin, when he came into power, his whole thing was like, hey, you guys are putting these missile systems into places like Poland that can arm a nuclear weapon within minutes. That's not very cool. We don't want that. So then we kept pushing it. And the doctrine coming out of Russia was called, it's deemed like the Niet means Niet doctrine. Basically, hey, don't fucking, that's our red line. If Ukraine becomes a part of NATO, we are going to invade. We're going to take back NATO, or we're going to take back Ukraine. And that's just going to be the end of it. And so then, personally, what I think triggered a lot of this in the recent term is the failed pullout of Afghanistan. I think that showed a lot of weakness on America's part. And that coupled with the Biden administration, 'cause I don't want to put all of it on Kamala, but just the Biden administration talking more and more publicly about, hey, we're going to bring Ukraine into NATO. Russia was like, no, the fuck you're not. Like, that's not going to happen. So, and then now we're here, unfortunately. You know, tens of thousands of people dead. We're sending a shit ton of money over there where it really should be either allocated to America. This is all my opinion, but allocated to America, whether that's infrastructure, whether that's the military budget, whether that's infrastructure budget, whatever it is. all that money's getting sent over there. And now that coupled with the destruction of the economy from the COVID stuff, now we are where we are. And now my fucking egg whites are $12.
So
anyway.
according to the Council of Foreign Relations.org, it's important to note that 175 billion total, but only 106 billion directly aids the government of Ukraine. It has the breakdown like since the Russian invasion, 13.6, 40.9, 12.3, 47.4, and then 61.3 is the most recent coming out. This breaks down where all the money is essentially going, and out of the 106 that's going to the Ukraine, 33.3 billion is budget support, and 69.8 billion is in weapons, equipment, and other military support, with 2.8 billion in humanitarian.
And then I want to add too, and this is of 10 hours ago, Biden administration preparing $725 million military aid package for Ukraine. Requests Congress approve additional $24 billion in emergency funding. So hopefully that emergency funding is going towards America, but who the fuck knows? Yeah. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, they are the original sponsor of this podcast, and I could not be happier to continue to be working with these guys. I get it. It's New Mexico. Everyone loves red, green, both. But this genuinely is my favorite brand of chili here in the state of New Mexico, and I love being able to partner up with these guys. They are absolutely phenomenal. Zane and the rest of the team at Chop Chili do an amazing job running that company, and they make an absolutely phenomenal product. And right now they are running a very special promotional on their Instagram. Go check them out on Instagram. Go give them a follow. And as they post pictures with the hashtag Where's My Chili Challenge, if you can guess where in New Mexico that picture was taken, you can win not only free red or green chili, but also a free custom t-shirt directly from the company themselves. Again, go check them out on Instagram, give them a follow, check out their hashtag Where's My Chili Challenge. Win yourself some free chili, win yourself some free shirts. They are also available in Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, and a ton of other grocery stores in the state of New Mexico, as well as El Paso, and they are expanding out to West Texas. Again, thank you so much to Zane and the rest of his amazing team over at Chop Chili. Back to the episode. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the amazing people over at High Desert Relief, a premier herbal destination right here in the state of New Mexico. They have extremely well-trained and knowledgeable staff that are more than happy to help you find what you're looking for or try something that you maybe have never thought of before. They have 2 locations right here in Albuquerque and a 3rd in Santa Fe. All 3 will be listed in the description of this episode below. All 3 locations offering legendary products at absolutely legendary prices, including this awesome merch that they were so kind enough to give me. They can be found at all 3 of the locations. Again, big thank you to all the people over at HDR. Back to the episode.